Story now. There's been a significant increase in cash-in-transit robberies since the beginning of the year. At least 45 cash heists have been reported this year alone, with Gauteng recording the highest number. Johan Berger from the Institute for Security Studies says the violence associated with the crime has also increased. He joins me now via Skype to talk to me a bit more about this situation. So, Johan Berger, 45 incidents of cash-in-transit heists nationally, the highest figures in Gauteng, followed by KwaZulu-Natal. What are we picking up by way of trends of this crime?
Yeah, good afternoon. I think it's still early days, and it's not yet clear whether we have a definitive increase in the number of cash-in-transit robberies compared to the previous year, the 2019 period. But we are concerned. This does appear, and if you talk to people in the industry, they certainly are concerned that from the initial figures that was published by Sabric, for example, and this is supported by Cash Connect and other players in the cash industry, then it does appear that there is a very high number for such a short period. And if this continues, we may see another huge increase in cash robberies, which is reminiscent of what we've seen in the 2017-2018 period, when we had 238 cash-in-transit robberies. So at this stage, we are concerned about the high number that we are currently seeing, but as I said, early days yet. This might change, so we will be monitoring the situation.
Sure, certainly by way of the overall yearly figures, it is early days for us to get a proper perspective. But my understanding is that there's also a bit of a concern about the level of violence involved in some of these heists. What is that a factor of? Is it a factor of with increased security around the movement of cash, therefore criminals feeling that they need to up the ante by way of the violence that they employ? Yes,
we are worried. I mean, we've seen serious violence in the past. Many years ago, in the 2006-2007 period, for example, there were incidents where these security guards were burned to death in the cash vans. So there's been that violence, but in the last number of years we got the impression, also the research shows, that where the criminals were satisfied to not further harm their victims, that includes the security officials, once they are in control of the situation. But we now get the impression that there are amongst them a number of very ruthless, callous killers that are completely intent on killing the security officials, whether they are resisting the attack or not. For example, we saw the incident in KZN very recently, where the armed security official was carrying a bag of money back to the cash vehicle, and the criminal, the robber, just walked up to him and shot him at very close range in the head, immediately died. So these are just some of the examples of the kind of ruthless violence that we are seeing, and this to me, I think, is a very worrying sign.
And Dr. Berger, talk to me about the fluctuating nature of this crime that we are talking about. You rightly point out that at some point we had it down by about 70% the 1 year, and I do remember attending one of these police crime statistics releases where it seemed as if we were putting behind us concern about cash-in-transit heists as a crime, and then it just surged all of a sudden in the subsequent years. What does that tell us about the police strategy to suppress permanently the issue of cash-in-transit heists?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good observation about what we are seeing. These crimes tend to increase at a certain point and then increase quite rapidly, like we saw in 2006, 2007, when we had about 467 cash in transit robberies, and the police and the cash industry, as well as SABRIC, the South African Banking Risk Information Center, they were forced, because of the public outcry, because of political attention, because of media reporting on this huge number of incidents happening, to start working more closely together. They pooled their resources. That includes information and sharing of information, and also other resources. The police, for example, provided some tactical training, and they provided tactical response units. And they were able to kill a number of these criminals and arrest a large number of them as well. They brought that down significantly since then. Then there was another increase again in the 2017-18 period. And in fact, that was just under 60% increase. And so again, the police and these other agencies started working closer together, or also large number of arrests by the police, and they brought it down again. There was a 23% decrease in 2019, and now we see another increase. So what this tells us is that the police do make breakthroughs with the assistance of the banking and cash in transit industries.
Sure.
But they are unable to sustain this. And the police tell me that this year and the end of last year, a number of these cash and transit robbers were let out on bail, amongst them 10 bombers. So the police are concerned that they catch these criminals, but they are released on bail, out there, back on the streets, and probably again involved in these robberies.
Dr. Johan Burgard, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Clearly, from what you described there, this is a moving target that police and the cash movement industry continue to grapple with as they try to bring down the number of cash and transit heists in